The jungle on Vulcan was dark and wet with heavy air that seemed to stick to the skin, and the squad was running fast through the tall red trees, their boots and claws and thin insect legs making quick crunching sounds on the ground behind them. The sound of something big moved through the leaves. The sound was heavy like the earth itself was breathing. The alien soldiers knew what it was, and fear was in their eyes. It was the fear beast, the hunter that never missed its prey, and it was coming for them. The fear beast was not like other hunters. It did not see with eyes or smell with a nose. It could sense fear like heat. It could taste it in the air. The more afraid you were, the faster it found you. No one had escaped it before. No one had ever seen it and lived to tell the story. Yet now the squad could hear it close behind, and their fear was growing stronger with every step. At the front of the group was Vrax, a tall lizard alien with scales like stone. Next came Clix, the insectoid soldier, with glassy wings folded tight against his back. Orland, the telepath, followed them, his smooth silver skin shining even in the dim light. And last was the human soldier, Corporal Alex. Kane, his breath came in sharp bursts, and his heart was loud in his ears. But he kept running, because stopping meant death. Branches snapped in the distance, and then the sound grew louder until the squad stopped without speaking. No one needed to say why they stopped. The fear beast had appeared in front of them. It was huge, bigger than any ground tank, its body covered in dark fur that seemed to swallow the light. Its mouth had too many teeth, all sharp, and all with its claws dug into the ground like knives. And yet it did not roar or attack. Instead it stood still, and its head slowly turned toward the squad. Every alien soldier froze in place. They had been told if the beast looked at you, it meant your life was measured in seconds. But the strange thing was it did not look at them all, only at Alex. Its yellow eyes locked on the human, and it began to move forward, each step slow and heavy like it had all the time in the world. Alex felt the air grow warmer as it came closer. His knees felt weak, and his body screamed to run, but something inside him kept him still. Maybe it was shock, maybe it was the knowledge that running would only end in a faster death. The beast stopped right in front of him, the smell of its breath thick in the air. The squad waited for the attack, their claws on weapons, their minds already seeing the human torn apart. But then something happened that none of them could understand. The fear beast lowered its body to the ground right next to Alex and slowly curled itself around him like a giant shadow. Its huge head rested near his boots, and its eyes closed. The jungle was silent except for the deep rumble of the beast's breathing. The most feared killer in the galaxy was sleeping, and it was sleeping beside a human soldier, as if he was not prey, but something else, something important. Vrax's voice was a low whisper. Do not move, human. Do not even breathe too loud. If it wakes, it will tear you apart. Clix's wings twitched with nervous energy. Orland stared hard, his mind reaching out to feel the emotions of the creature. But even a telepath could not enter too deep without risk. Alex stood frozen, his eyes wide, every muscle stiff. The beast's fur was warm against his leg. He could feel the slow rise and fall of its chest. It was so close that if he reached out, he could touch it. But the idea of touching the galaxy's nightmare made his hand shake. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. The jungle light did not change much here. Under the thick red canopy, shadows moved, and far away strange cries echoed from unseen animals, but nothing dared come close to the fear beast. The squad stayed in a loose circle around Alex, their eyes scanning the trees and the ground, ready for anything. Inside Alex's mind, thoughts spun fast. Why me? Why did it not kill me? Why lie down like this? Was it sick? Was it playing with me like a cat plays with a mouse? No answer. Came only the steady sound of the creature's breathing. The aliens kept whispering to each other, their voices quick and sharp. Maybe it is waiting, maybe it wants him alive for later. Maybe humans smell different, maybe it is not hungry right now. The commander's voice cut through the whispers. Stay quiet. We will watch. We will record everything. The longer the beast stayed, the stranger it felt to Alex. His fear was still there, but it was changing like a heavy weight, shifting to confusion and a strange calm. The heat from the beast's body was almost comforting in the cold, damp air of the jungle. A drop of water fell from the high branches above, landing on the beast's head. One yellow eye opened for a moment and looked at Alex, then closed again. Alex could not tell if it was warning him or simply acknowledging his presence. Either way, the meaning was clear. The creature was not leaving, and neither was he. Far away, another branch cracked. Something was moving out there, but nothing dared to enter the circle made by the beast's presence. It was as if the human and the monster now shared the same small world, a world where the rules had changed without warning. The squad did not know what would happen next. But one thing was sure: the story of this moment would never be believed by anyone who was not standing there in the red jungle, watching the monster sleep next to the human. The jungle air was thick and heavy, and every breath felt like pulling water into the lungs, and the squad stood frozen in a loose half-circle around the fear beast and the human Alex. Kane, the creature, still curled around him, like a living wall of fur and muscle, its sides rising and falling in deep, slow rhythm, while its claws flexed against the ground. Even in sleep, the sound of its breathing was a low thunder that made the ground hum under their feet and claws, and the smell of its fur was strong, like iron and smoke mixed together. Vrax's scaled tail twitched side to side, a sure sign of his nerves, and he kept glancing at the treetops, as if expecting something to drop from above. His wide golden eyes moved between the beast and Alex, and he whispered in a voice so low it was almost part of the wind, "Do not move, human, not even a little one wrong shift, and those claws will slice through you before you know you are dead." And clicks, the insectoid soldier tilted his thin head, his antennae quivering with unease. His voice was sharp and clicking. "Maybe it waits, maybe it watches in its dreams, maybe it thinks you are food it will keep fresh." Alex stayed still, his heart hammering, but his face set, as if carved from stone, though inside he wanted to run, to scream, to throw himself into the trees, and never stop moving. The warmth of the beast's body pressed into his leg, and he could hear the faint whistle in its breath every time it exhaled. He could feel the tremor of its muscles under the thick fur, as if even in sleep it was ready to spring at anything that dared come close. Orlin the telepath stood a little further back, his smooth silver skin reflecting the faint red light from the canopy, and his black eyes stared hard at the beast, his mind brushing against the edges of the creature's thoughts, but not pushing too deep. He knew the risk of a mental link with a predator that lived only to hunt in fear. Orlin's lips moved soundlessly before he spoke aloud to the commander. "It is not awake, but it is not truly asleep. Either it listens even now to the beat of his heart, to the movement of our breath." The commander, a tall, broad alien with long bone plates along his back, hissed softly, then made a quick gesture to the others. "Hold position. No one fires, no one moves, unless I give the word. If the beast wakes in the wrong mood, we all die here." The rest of the squad nodded, though none took their eyes off the dark mound of fur that was their nightmare come to life. The jungle beyond their small clearing was restless. Branches creaked far overhead, and strange shapes moved between the trees, too far to see clearly. Small creatures with glowing eyes peeked from the undergrowth and darted away whenever the beast's breathing grew louder. A distant scream of some unknown animal echoed through the air, but nothing large dared to step into the scent zone of the fear beast. It was as if the forest itself knew this was its ruler. Vrax leaned closer to Click's, his voice still low and tense. "We cannot stay here forever. Something else will smell this one soon and come hunting." And Clix clicked his mandibles softly and looked toward Alex, then back at the commander. "Perhaps we should leave him here. The beast has chosen him. We can escape while it sleeps." And Orlin's head snapped toward him, his voice flat. "Leave the human, and you will be next. When the beast wakes and finds its chosen gone, it will track us. It will track you." Alex listened but said nothing. Every muscle in his body still locked. He knew they spoke truth. He had no chance if they left, but he also knew they might decide their own lives were worth more than the risk of saving him. The commander's eyes moved over each soldier and finally rested on Alex. The choice was silent, but clear. For now, they would wait, watch, and record every moment. The minutes dragged like hours. Sweat rolled down Alex's back, and his legs began to ache from standing so still, yet he dared not shift his weight too much. The beast's fur brushed against his boot, and the slow rumble of its chest was the only sound that kept his mind tethered to the strange reality that he was still alive. He tried not to think about what it would feel like if those teeth closed around his arm or his neck. A shadow passed overhead, some large winged creature drifting above the canopy, its cry sharp and strange. It circled once, twice, then vanished into the thick clouds, as if deciding not to test the sleeping predator below. Vrax's tail twitched again, his claws flexing around his rifle. He wanted to be ready if anything happened, yet he knew a weapon would be useless against the beast. The commander finally spoke again, voice barely more than a breath. "Orlin, can you read its dreams?" The telepath hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I can try, but it will feel me, and if it wakes the result will not be good." Still he closed his eyes and let his mind sink toward the strange deep presence that was the beast in its slumber. Alex watched the silver-skinned alien's expression change, his mouth tightening, his brow furrowing, and then his eyes opened fast and wide, and he stepped back quickly, his voice shaking at dreams of the human. A ripple of confusion moved through the squad. Clix's wings twitched. Vrax hissed low. The commander tilted his head in thought, and Orlin continued. It sees him not as prey, but as something else. I felt no hunger, only recognition. The shape of his face, the sound of his breath, these are in the beast's mind, as if from before. Alex blinked at that, his mind racing. Had he seen this creature before? Had it seen him? And then a flicker of memory rose unbidden. The small, strange animal he had saved 2 weeks ago during a routine patrol. At the tiny thing with soft fur and bright eyes that had been trapped in a snare. He had freed it. Without thinking, ignoring Vrax's warning about wasting time, he had let it run back into the jungle. Maybe that animal had been more than it seemed. Before he could speak, a new sound rolled through the jungle, a deep, far-off roar that made the leaves shake. The beast stirred, one massive claw shifting slightly, its head lifting just enough for one yellow eye to open and glance toward the sound. Alex's breath caught in his throat. The beast did not move toward the roar. Instead, it lowered its head again and pressed its massive body closer to him, as if shielding him from the unseen threat. The squad exchanged uneasy looks. The commander's voice was sharp and quiet. Ready your weapons, something else is coming. Clix's antennae quivered. Vrax adjusted his grip. Orlin kept his mind stretched outward, feeling for whatever moved beyond the trees, and in that tense moment Alex felt the beast's breathing grow deeper and slower again, as if it had decided the danger was not enough to rouse it from its strange rest beside him. No one in the squad dared speak now. The sounds in the jungle grew fainter, as if whatever had approached was moving away, maybe sensing the territory it had wandered into was not safe. Still, the fear in the air remained thick. Every soldier knew they were standing in the shadow of the most dangerous living thing they had ever faced, and it had chosen a human as its companion or its possession, and none of them knew which. The commander finally gestured for them to hold position until nightfall. No retreat, no advance, just watch and wait. The alien soldiers, the Beidou unease, was etched in every movement. The jungle light dimmed slowly as shadows lengthened, and the red glow above faded into darker shades. The fear beast did not move from its place. The air in the red jungle was heavy with heat and damp, and every sound seemed too loud in the strange stillness that had fallen since the fear beast lay curled beside the human Alex. Kane, the squad remained in their tense half-circle, weapons ready, though each of them knew deep inside that no weapon they carried would truly stop the thing that now rested like a living wall between them and the shadows of the forest. The breathing of the beast was slow and deep, like the steady pull of ocean waves against the shore, and the rise and fall of its massive chest gave Alex a strange feeling in his gut, one that was not only fear, but something he could not yet name. Alex had faced danger before on Earth and in space battles, and even on strange worlds where the ground itself tried to swallow a man, but this was different. There was no fight here, no charge, no shots fired, just the warm, heavy presence of the creature pressed to his side, as if it had chosen this spot on purpose. Its fur brushed against his leg in slow rhythm with its breathing, and the smell of it was strong, a mix of soil, metal, and something sharp that reminded him faintly of lightning in the air after a storm. And as the minutes turned into hours, that smell became less a warning and more a part of the air he breathed. Vrax, the scaled soldier, kept shifting his weight from one clawed foot to the other, his tail twitching in short jerks he could not hide, and his eyes stayed locked on the place where the beast's thick neck joined its massive shoulders. Clix, the insectoid, was still a stone, but his glassy black eyes never stopped moving, his antennae flicking toward Alex, then toward the trees, then back again. And Orlin, the silver-skinned telepath, stood in a quiet watch, his mind touching the edges of the beast's thoughts, but never pushing deeper. When Orlin finally spoke, it was in a low, careful tone, meant not to disturb the air too much. It is dreaming, he said, not to the commander alone, but to all of them. It dreams of the human, and that made the others shift uncomfortably. Vrax gave a short hiss, and Clix's mandibles clicked once sharp and hard, as if to cut the strange thought in half. Dreaming of me, Alex thought, his hand still at his sides, his head tilted slightly, as if trying to hear something the beast might be whispering without sound. But Orlin went on, I feel no hunger in it, no blood scent in its mind, no strike of the kill. There is only the image of his face, the shape of his breath, the sound of his heart, like a rhythm it knows and trusts. And in its mind there is a feeling I do not understand, but it is close to what your kind would call safe. Safe, Alex thought again, his eyes drifting down to the beast's head, where one ear twitched now and then, as if chasing some sound in its dream. A predator that made whole armies run now lay, as if guarding him from the world, and the thought made his fear twist into confusion and curiosity. The commander tilted his heavy head, the plates on his back catching the dim light, and he spoke slow and sharp. Your kind are strange human. Perhaps it smells something in you. Perhaps you did something to it before. And Alex felt a memory stir again, unbidden, the image of a small creature, soft fur, bright eyes, trapped in a wire snare, its tiny body trembling as he freed it 2 weeks ago. During patrol, he had let it go, without thinking, ignoring Vrax's scorn at wasting time in dangerous territory. Could that small thing have been connected to this massive nightmare now curled at his side? Alex wondered, his mind turning over the idea like a stone in his hand, and the thought brought both relief and unease. If it was true, then he was not prey, but something else to the beast, something it had decided to protect. Yet the very idea of being protected by such a killer made his skin prickle. The jungle sounds began to shift as the dim red light above faded deeper into shadow. Long, low calls echoed from far away, and strange clicking noises passed through the air like signals between unseen things. The forest floor seemed to rustle with tiny feet as smaller creatures moved, but none came close. The zone around the beast was silent save for the breath of the human and the slow pulse of the monster. Clicks moved closer to Orlin, his voice clicking softly. What if it wakes hungry? What if the dream changes? Orlin's black eyes did not blink, his voice calm. If it wished to feed on him, it would have done so the moment it found us. There is something else here. Something I do not yet understand. Vrax snorted, low tail lashing. Perhaps the beast keeps its food alive until it wishes to eat it. Alex heard them all, but his focus kept returning to the heat beside him, to the strange calm creeping into his chest. The longer he stood there, the more his fear felt like a shadow in the background, replaced by a stillness that almost made him forget the danger. It was as if the beast's slow breathing was a signal his own body began to match. A soft wind moved through the clearing, bringing with it the scent of distant rain. The beast's ear twitched again, and its tail gave a single slow sweep across the ground, but it did not wake Alex thought. He felt its muscles shift, slightly pressing closer to him, like the weight of a heavy blanket against the cold. He remembered nights on long patrol, when he would sleep beside a campfire, with his squad, the warmth of another living thing close by, making the dark less threatening. The thought was strange, but he could not shake it. The commander raised a clawed hand to signal silence, though no one had been speaking. A faint sound drifted from the far side of the clearing, low and steady like footsteps, too heavy for any small creature. The squad's eyes turned toward the trees, weapons rising slightly, but the beast's breathing did not change, and the steps faded again, as if whatever it was had turned away. Alex felt a flicker of relief, and then a stronger wave of curiosity about why everything seemed to avoid coming near. It was Orlin who broke the silence again, his voice carrying that strange note of wonder. I think it has claimed him the way a predator claims territory. The human is its ground, its safe space, and as long as he stands here, nothing will cross that line unless it wishes to face the beast. Vrax shook his head, as if to push the thought away, but his eyes never left Alex and the dark-furred wall beside him. Night deepened, the canopy above almost black now, with only thin lines of red light remaining. The jungle beyond seemed to pull back into itself, and the air grew cooler. Still the beast did not move. It was as if it had decided the world could wait until it woke on its own terms. Alex stood within its circle, feeling the strangeness of the bond grow thicker around him, the idea that maybe, just maybe, he was safer beside the most feared killer in the galaxy than anywhere else on this world. And as the shadows closed in tighter, the squad held their positions, the commander watching the edges of the clearing, Clix's antennae flicking for distant movement, Vrax's tail lashing in slow, restless arcs, and Orlin's mind reaching just far enough to keep the presence of the beast within his mental sight. Alex kept breathing with the slow rhythm beside him, wondering not if the beast would wake, but what it would do when it did. And deep in the stillness of the jungle it dreamed on. The jungle around them faded in Alex Kane's mind as the memory began to take shape, and it was not the dark red canopy or the slow rise and fall of the fear beast's chest that filled his thoughts now, but the sharp sunlight of a different day 2 weeks ago, when the squad had been on a patrol mission far from base. The ground had been dry, then the air thinner, and the trees fewer, and the sky a hard pale yellow over the rolling hills of Velker 9. They had been searching for signs of enemy scouts. following a rumor that a group of raiders had landed near the old mining tunnels, and the commander had ordered them to sweep the area before nightfall. Alex had been walking near the edge of the group, scanning the ground, when he heard a faint high sound that did not match the wind or the hum of insect wings. It was a sound that wavered like a cry, and a squeak all in one. He slowed and tilted his head, listening, while Vrax ahead of him growled softly, "Keep moving, human, it is nothing," and Alex almost obeyed. But then the sound came again, this time with a sharp rustle in the brush to his right. He moved toward it, stepping over a low root and parting the dry leaves until he saw a small shape struggling there. It was a creature no bigger than his helmet, with fur the color of dark stone, and eyes bright like twin pieces of amber. Its body was caught in a thin wire snare, the loop tight around its leg, and every time it tried to pull away, the wire cut deeper. Its breaths were quick, and its little chest heaved as it stared at him. In pure terror, Alex could see the blood around the wire, and he felt something twist in his chest. He had seen traps before on other worlds, but this one was not the work of his squad. It was the work of raiders who set snares to catch small animals for food or bait. Behind him, Vrax called again, his voice sharper, "Leave it, the mission is more important." But Alex shook his head. Even though the lizard soldier could not see the motion, he dropped to one knee and reached into his belt pouch for his field knife. The small creature froze for a moment, watching him, its eyes wide. Then it tried to pull again. In panic, Alex kept his voice low and calm. "Easy now. I am not going to hurt you," though he knew it could not understand his words. The tone was what mattered. The knife blade slid under the wire, and with one careful twist and pull, the snare broke. The tension released, and the creature stumbled free, its leg still bleeding, but no longer bound. It backed away 3 short hops, then stopped, still watching him, the fur along its back raised and lowered, as if it was trying to decide if it was danger or safety. Then it turned and vanished into the brush. Without another sound, Alex stayed crouched for a moment, staring at the spot where it had disappeared before, standing and wiping the blade clean. When he caught up to the squad, Clicks gave him a hard look, his antennae tilting forward in what Alex had come to recognize as disapproval. Orlin said nothing, but his black eyes lingered on Alex for a moment, as if he could already see that this choice might echo later. The commander only grunted and ordered them to move faster if they wanted to finish the sweep before dark. That night, Alex had almost forgotten about the creature he had freed until he woke during his watch shift and thought he saw 2 small amber glints in the distance, just outside the circle of their camp light. He had blinked, and they were gone, replaced by the shadows of rocks and low bushes. He told himself it was nothing more than a trick of tired eyes, and kept his attention on the hills until his watch ended. Now, standing in the present with the great fear beast curled beside him, the memory hit with a sharp edge. The amber eyes of the small creature were the same color as the deep golden yellow that now watched him from time to time. When the beast stirred, he remembered the pattern of its fur, the way it had raised along the back of the small one, and the way the fur of this massive predator rose and fell with its breath, and he felt certain they were connected. The connection brought a rush of conflicting feelings. Part of him felt relief, because it meant there was a reason the beast had chosen him, a reason it had not torn him apart, like every story said it would. But another part of him felt a deeper unease, because if this creature was the parent or the guardian of the small one he had saved, then it also meant it was capable of remembering, of holding on to an image and a moment for days or weeks, and that kind of intelligence in a predator was more dangerous than raw hunger. Orlin's voice brought him back to the now still low and measured, as if reading his thoughts. "There's a thread between you and it, human. Something you did in the past has tied you together, and the thread is strong." Vrax gave a short hiss and shook his head. "Strong or not, it is still the most dangerous thing on this planet, and it could change its mind in a blink." Clix's wings shifted slightly, making a faint chitinous rasp, and he added, "Or it could be keeping him close until it is ready to kill." Alex stayed silent because he knew no argument would change their minds. The truth was that even he could not say for sure what the beast intended, yet the warmth against his side and the slow, even rhythm of its breathing made it hard to believe in sudden betrayal. It felt almost like lying beside a campfire on a cold night, the heat soaking into him even through his armor, the scent of the fur familiar now in a way that unsettled him. Far beyond the clearing, the jungle gave a long sigh of wind through the high branches, and a few leaves drifted down from the canopy, the red glow of the sky fading toward deeper shadow, and with the change in light came the sounds of night creatures waking and moving in the undergrowth. yet none of them stepped into the circle of safety the beast's presence made around them. Alex could feel the squad's eyes on him as if he was no longer just a fellow soldier, but something caught between them and the creature an unknown factor in a game where every wrong move could mean death. And as the dark closed in tighter, he wondered if the thread Orland spoke of was something he could ever cut, or if it had already wrapped itself too tightly around both of them to be broken. The beast shifted again, its massive head turning slightly, so that one golden eye looked at him for a long silent moment, then closed as it let out a deep slow breath that seemed to shake the ground under his feet, and in that breath Alex thought he heard something almost like trust. The night was deep now, and the red light from the sky had faded into a shadowed black that pressed down on the jungle like a heavy curtain. The air was cooler, but still thick and damp, carrying with it the sense of earth and strange flowers, and something sharper that made the squad tense, as the fear beast remained curled beside Alex, Kane, its breathing slow, but its ears twitching now and then, as if it heard something moving in the distance, something that the others could not yet sense. Vrax's tail swept the ground in short, uneasy strokes, and his claws gripped the handle of his rifle as his eyes searched the dark edges of the clearing. Orland stood with his head tilted slightly, his black eyes unfocused, as he let his mind reach into the forest, searching for thoughts and emotions that did not belong to the trees or the insects. After a long moment his voice came low and tight. "We are not alone. There are more than one. They are circling slow. They know the beast is here. And yet they come." Clix's antennae snapped upright and began to move side to side, tasting the air for scent vibrations. His thin voice clicking with unease. "That means they are either too stupid or too hungry to care." The commander raised one clawed hand and signaled for the squad to hold weapons ready, but not fire, until the threat showed itself. Every movement was slow, every sound measured, because they all knew that the wrong action could not only draw the hunters closer, but also wake the beast in the wrong way. Alex kept still, his body stiff, his mind racing, as he listened to the faint rustles beyond the tree line, each one a reminder that something out there was closing in. A low growl rolled from the beast's throat, not loud, but deep enough to make the ground seem to hum under Alex's boots. The massive head lifted slightly, and the golden eyes opened, both now glowing faint in the dim light. The fur along its shoulders rose, and the muscles under it tensed. The breath that came from its nostrils was hot and sharp, and in that moment Alex felt the strange calm in the air vanish, replaced by a pressure like the moment before a storm breaks. From the left side of the clearing a shadow moved fast, then stopped just within sight. It was a long, lean shape, with too many legs and eyes that glowed pale blue in the dark. Its head was low, and its jaws hung open to show thin needle-like teeth. More shapes followed, slipping from the trees one by one, until Alex counted 6 of them, each one moving with a slow, crouching step, as if testing the air. The beast's low growl deepened, and the intruders froze for a breath. Then, without warning, the beast surged upward with a speed that made Alex's eyes widen. Its body moved like a wave of muscle and fur, and in 2 long strides it reached the first hunter and slammed into it with enough force to send the thing flying back into the trees. A high screech tore through the night as the other hunters scattered, but the beast was already moving again, its claws tearing deep into the second one before it could escape. The rest tried to circle, but every time they came near, the beast turned on them with teeth bared and eyes blazing. The squad could only watch as the most feared predator in the galaxy became a blur of motion in the moonless dark. Alex felt the rush of wind each time it passed near, and the heavy thud of its paws hitting the ground. The screams of the hunters grew fewer and fainter, until only one remained, it back toward the trees, its body low, its many eyes fixed on the beast. But it did not run until the beast roared. The roar shook the leaves from the branches above, and seemed to drive the air itself away. For a moment Alex felt it in his chest like a physical blow, and even the squad took a half step back. The last hunter turned and fled, vanishing into the deeper forest without a sound except for the rapid crash of its retreat. The clearing was still again, but now it smelled of blood and torn vegetation. The beast stood at the edge of the clearing, its sides heaving, its fur damp with sweat and the dark stains of its enemies. It lowered its head and sniffed the air once, then turned and walked back toward Alex, each step slow and heavy, not from injury, but from the deliberate pace of a victor returning to its post. It came to a stop beside him and lowered itself to the ground, pressing its side against his leg before curling its body around him again. As if the attack had been nothing more than a short interruption to its chosen place. Vrax's voice was low, almost reverent, in spite of the fear in it. It fought for you. Human clicks made a sharp click of disbelief for him or for itself. Either way, it kept the threat from reaching us. Orland's gaze was fixed on the beast, his tone steady. It did not kill to feed, it killed to remove danger. The difference matters. Alex looked down at the massive head resting near his boots, the golden eyes half closed now, as the beast breathed in slow, steady rhythm. Again, the heat from its body was strong enough to make him sweat even in the cooler air. He thought of the small creature he had freed and wondered if it had watched the same way he was watching now when this massive parent fought for it. The commander gave a short nod, his voice low. We move at dawn. Until then, we stay within its circle. Nothing will come for us while it guards him. None of them spoke after that. The silence of the jungle slowly returned, broken only by the occasional drip of water from the canopy or the distant call of some night bird that dared to sing now that the hunt was over. Alex felt exhaustion creeping into his limbs, but he did not dare to sleep, his mind still turning over the sight of the beast's speed and power and the strange certainty that it would not let anything harm him. The truth of why it had chosen him was still a mystery, but the bond was no longer in question, not for him and not for the rest of the squad, who now looked at him with a mix of wariness and reluctant respect. The night passed with no further signs of hunters. The beast never stirred except to shift slightly and press closer to him, as if to remind any watching eyes that he was under its protection. And when the first pale light began to seep through the leaves, the commander gave the order to move. The beast rose with them, matching its steps to Alex's pace, its head low, but its eyes always moving, scanning the shadows at the edge of the trail. The squad walked in a loose formation around them, though every one of them knew the real shield was the great predator at their center, and as they left the clearing behind, Alex could not help but glance back once to see the marks in the earth where the fight had taken place, deep gouges from claws and the darker stains that told the rest of the story. The trail ahead was long and the jungle still dangerous, but the hunters who had dared to challenge them would not be back, and the thought carried with it a strange, quiet confidence that Alex had never felt on this planet before, the knowledge that the most dangerous creature in the galaxy had chosen to stand between him and anything that would harm him, and for reasons he did not yet fully understand, he felt certain it would do so again. The jungle opened into a thin valley, where the trees gave way to long grass that swayed under a wind carrying the scent of rain and metal. The squad moved quick across it, their weapons ready, but their eyes often drawn to the beast that walked beside Alex, cane, its head turning left and right with every step, its ears twitching at sounds no one else seemed to hear. The commander kept a steady pace, but his tail flicked every few steps, a silent sign of the unease he did not voice. At the far end of the valley, the land dipped into a ravine where the dark shape of a dropship waited, its hull scratched and its landing struts sunk deep into the mud. Two crew members stood at the base of the ramp. One of them was tall and thin with pale blue skin and black hair tied in a tight knot. The other was short and wore a white coat over armor. The coat marked him as a science officer, which meant this was Dr. Halen, the one who had been asking questions about the beast since the first report. When they saw the squad approach, the doctor stepped forward, his eyes going wide at the sight of the massive creature walking so close to the human. He raised both hands, not in fear, but in a strange, cautious greeting, as if he wanted the beast to see. He carried no weapon. The beast ignored him and followed Alex right up the ramp before settling itself near the back of the ship, where it could see both the open hatch and the crew at the same time. The commander wasted no time speaking to the doctor. We lost 3 more to the jungle. We gained this thing. He pointed with a claw at the beast, and it has decided the human is worth guarding. The doctor's face lit up with something like excitement more than fear, his voice quick but careful. Do you understand what this means? This is not chance, this is choice. Vrax frowned. Choice? What choice? Beasts do not choose. Halen shook his head sharply. This one does, and it chose him, the human. There's a pattern in their instincts, and I have been studying the fragments of their behavior from old encounters. Alex kept silent, but his eye stayed on the doctor. There was something in the way Halen spoke that made him think the man had been waiting a long time to say these things. The doctor went on. You all know the old stories about the fear beasts, how they appear without warning and hunt without mercy, how entire squads vanish when they are near. But what those stories do not tell you is that in rare cases they stop attacking when they find something they deem worthy to protect. In every recorded case, That something was human. Clicks made a short, clicking sound of disbelief worthy. To protect, the words mean nothing to a predator. Halen gave him a sharp look. You think that? But this species does not kill without reason. They kill to end threats, and they guard those they see as essential to survival in their own strange way. The commander's voice was low. Essential to survival. How can one human be that? The doctor walked closer to Alex, his gaze studying the man from head to toe. It is not about strength, it is about willpower. Humans have a way of facing danger that most species cannot match. It is not always skill or weapons. Sometimes it is simply refusing to break, and the beast responds to that. They see it as a sign of an ally worth keeping. Alex felt the beast's breath at his back, warm and steady, and he wondered if the doctor was right. Maybe it had not been about freeing the smaller creature that night. Maybe that was only the first test, and everything after had been the beast watching him, weighing him, deciding if he would stand or break. The dropship shuddered as the engines came online. The commander gave the order to lift off, and the ramp began to close, but the beast stayed calm, its head turning to watch the shrinking jungle, as if marking every shadow and sound. Even as they left it behind, the rain began to fall hard against the hull, the sound filling the cabin with a steady drumming. Halen knelt near the beast, careful to stay outside the reach of its claws, and began to speak in a low voice, more to himself than anyone else. If I can learn why they choose, if I can understand what makes them bond with a human, we could change everything. No one would dare fight us if we had even one of these on our side. Vrax muttered under his breath, or it kills us in our sleep. Halen did not answer, but his eyes never left the beast, his mind clearly racing through theories and plans. The flight back to the main camp was long and rough, the storm throwing the ship up and down through dark clouds. Alex sat still, his thoughts heavy. He could feel the beast shifting now and then pressing against him, as if checking he was still there. Every time it did, his pulse quickened, not in fear, but in the strange recognition that it was watching over him the same way a soldier might guard a comrade in battle. When the dropship landed, the camp lights cut through the rain and revealed the high walls and metal towers of their base. Guards stood at the gates, weapons ready, their eyes going wide at the sight of the beast. Stepping off the ramp beside Alex, the commander spoke quickly to the gate chief, letting them through before panic could spread. Inside the camp, the beast drew stares from every corner. Some soldiers backed away, others froze in place, and a few reached for weapons, until the commander's sharp order made them stop. Halen walked ahead, leading them toward the research wing, his voice urgent. I need scans, I need blood samples, for anything we can take, without harming it. The commander shot him a warning look. You try to harm it, and it will not be you alone who dies. Halen nodded, but his hands were already busy pulling equipment from shelves inside the lab. The room smelled of metal and antiseptic, the walls lined with glowing screens that showed maps and data streams. The beast stayed near the door, its eyes moving slowly over every face in the room before lowering its head and lying down, but its tail flicked once like a warning that it was not truly at rest. The doctor began setting up a scanner near Alex, speaking quickly. The more I learn, the more I believe they are not only intelligent, but capable of loyalty. And if that is true, then they can be reasoned with, maybe even allied with. Alex thought of the hunters in the jungle, the speed and power of the beast, the way it had come back to him after every strike. He did not know if loyalty was the right word, but he knew it was not mindless. Halen's eyes met his for a moment, and Alex could see that same thought reflected there. This was not an animal in the way the others believed. This was something older and deeper. The commander stepped to the window, looking out into the rain, his voice heavy. There will be those who want it killed, and those who will want it used. Neither will get what they want if it decides to act against them. Alex looked at the beast and felt a strange weight in his chest, knowing the commander was right. Whatever came next would depend on what the beast chose. Halen's voice broke the silence. Tomorrow, we test its reactions to different situations. We see if it will follow orders. We see if it will defend on command. If it does, we will know for sure. Alex was not sure if that was a good idea, but he said nothing. Instead, he reached down and let his hand rest lightly on the beast's thick fur. For the first time, the great predator made a low sound, not a growl, but something softer, almost like a deep sigh. Outside, the rain kept falling. The camp lights flickered in the wind, and somewhere far in the jungle something roared in answer to the storm. Morning came with a thin gray light spreading across the camp. The rain had slowed to a steady drizzle, but the ground was soft underfoot, and the air carried the smell of wet soil and fuel. The beast was awake. Before anyone else, sitting at the edge of the main yard, its head turning to watch the gates and towers, as if memorizing every movement, the guards gave it a wide space, their eyes sharp, but their hands tight on their weapons. Alex stepped out of the barracks, his armor straps hanging loose, and his breath making small clouds in the cool air. The beast's eyes found him at once, and it stood up, moving. With that same smooth, heavy grace, it came to his side, without a sound, and the two of them walked toward the research wing, where Dr. Halen was waiting. Inside the lab, the doctor was already moving fast between tables, his voice sharp and full of energy. We begin today. We test its reactions. We find its limits. We see if it will follow commands. The commander stood near the door, his arms crossed, and his eyes fixed on the beast, as if waiting for the first sign of trouble. The first test was simple. Halen had set up 3 metal crates, each marked with a glowing color, red, blue, and green. He pointed to the red one and told Alex, "Tell it to touch that one." Alex looked at the beast, feeling slightly foolish, but he pointed to the red crate and said, "Go there." The beast stared at him for a moment, then at the crate. Then it walked over and tapped it with one massive claw. Halen nearly dropped his datapad. The second test was harder. Halen had a soldier stand near the green crate and ordered him to pretend to be a threat. The soldier stepped forward, raising his voice and making quick movements toward Alex. In less than a second, the beast was between them, its body low, its head forward, its mouth slightly open. The soldier froze and raised both hands, showing he was only acting. The beast's muscles stayed tight until Alex stepped forward and touched its shoulder. Then it slowly backed away. Halen spoke fast to the commander. "You see, it understands not only commands, but intent. It reacts to threats to the human without hesitation. This is beyond instinct. This is trained behavior without the training." The commander did not answer right away, his eyes locked on the beast, his voice finally low. "We will see what happens when the threat is real." The next hours were filled with more tests, some simple, some dangerous. The beast ignored food. Unless Alex gave it permission, it would carry heavy loads. Without complaint, it would even follow Alex through narrow corridors despite its size. But it would not obey anyone else, not Halen, not the commander, not any soldier, only Alex. By midday, word had spread through the camp, and a small crowd gathered outside the lab, whispers running through the air. Some said the beast was a danger that should be destroyed before it turned on them. Others said it could be the strongest weapon they had in the war against the raiders and the jungle predators. Then the alarm sirens began to wail, a voice over the comm, shouting incoming hostiles at the north wall. Alex felt his chest tighten. The commander was already moving toward the exit, barking orders. The beast followed without hesitation, its claws clicking against the floor as it kept pace with Alex. Outside the camp, the tree limbs shook with movement, figures breaking through the mist, tall, lean raiders with armor made from bone and metal, their weapons glowing faintly in the rain. They fired into the wall, sending shards of metal and sparks into the air. Soldiers on the towers returned fire, but more raiders came from the east side, cutting off the escape routes. Alex reached the north wall just as a section of the gate began to buckle under the pressure of the attackers. The commander shouted to hold the line, but the raiders kept pushing through. One leapt over the wall, landing just feet from Alex. The beast hit it before it could raise its weapon, slamming it into the ground with enough force to shake the mud loose from the gate supports. More raiders poured in, some rushing toward the barracks, others toward the research wing. Alex fought hard, his rifle kicking against his shoulder each time he fired, but the beast was a shadow at his side, striking down anything that came close. Soldiers began to shout its name, though it had none yet, urging it on as if it were one of their own. The fight grew worse when a massive raider leader stepped into view, carrying a weapon like a jagged spear crackling with energy. He pointed it at Alex and shouted something in a harsh guttural tongue. The beast moved forward, but the leader held up his free hand, and a net of shimmering light snapped into place around the creature. It roared, thrashing, but the net tightened, cutting into its fur and skin. Alex felt a surge of panic and charged at the leader, firing his rifle until the clip was empty. The leader staggered, but did not fall. Instead, he swung the spear at Alex, knocking him to the ground. The beast roared again, the sound shaking the air. It pulled at the net with every muscle in its body, the energy crackling across its frame, but it kept its eyes on Alex. The commander's voice was distant over the chaos. "Fall back to the inner wall, fall back." But Alex did not move. He was too close to the beast to leave it trapped. The raider leader raised his spear again, aiming at Alex, and in that instant the beast broke free of the net, tearing the glowing strands apart with a burst of strength that sent a shockwave through the mud. It slammed into the leader, knocking the spear away and crushing him into the ground. The other raiders froze just long enough for the soldiers to push forward their weapons, cutting down the attackers. One by one, the beast stayed over Alex, its body between him and the enemy, until the last raider fell and the sirens went quiet except for the distant rumble of thunder. When the dust settled, the commander walked over, his voice heavy. You could have died, and so could it. Alex looked at the beast, its fur scorched in places, its breathing heavy, but its eyes still locked on him. He shook his head. I think it already made its choice. Halen appeared from the edge of the crowd, his coat soaked, his hands shaking slightly. He spoke to no one in particular. The choice is clear. It will protect him even against impossible odds. The beast lowered itself beside Alex, letting out that same deep sigh as before. The rain washed the blood and mud from its fur. Soldiers began to move among the fallen, gathering weapons, tending to the wounded, but their eyes kept returning to the human and the monster standing together at the center of the yard. The commander looked at Halen, then at Alex, then finally at the beast, his voice quiet but firm. From now on it stays with you wherever you go. Alex met his gaze and nodded, knowing what that meant. He was now the link between the camp and this creature, the one who would answer for whatever it did next. As the storm broke and sunlight spilled through the clouds, the beast stood again, looking toward the jungle, as if waiting for something. Alex followed its gaze, and for a moment he thought he saw another shadow move among the trees. Before it was gone, he felt a strange chill, but also a sense of certainty. Whatever came next, the beast would face it with him.